I thought this was going to be a really challenging color grade because you're basically in a world of Tim Burton colors, which is vibrant, saturated, beautiful colors with a huge amount of darkness, because he's also about that, and you're dealing with characters that are in monochrome. But the reality is not that, and it's contextual. So let's go ahead and get into the coloring themselves, because how hard could it possibly be? Let's just go ahead and jump into it. So I have three shots of me. It is what it is. I have one that's very badly white balanced because I was lazy. I have one that's daylight. It's not technically daylight because I use lights, but it's daylight. And I have one that's, a sort of standard YouTube setup where it's daylight on my face and then amber lights behind me, and they're not exactly the same color. That's fine. So I was thinking this one I wanted to, let's see, what did I match it to? Let me just see here. Okay, I see what I did. And this is 8-bit footage. If you're a colorist and you're curious of what it is, it's 8-bit H.265. It was just out of my Panasonic. It was a baked-in look. This is just their portrait mode that I white balanced incorrectly. Let's put this over here so I can get to it quickly. So I wanted to match this look to this look because I thought they were relatively similar. We can put them side by side. Oops. And we'll look at them. Go to selected clips. There we go. Okay, so a couple things we got going on. We got a bright background, a high key background, which is similar-ish. Mine is a whitish wall. Theirs is a beautiful colored stained glass window. We also have a light in the background. We have a light in the background, so not totally different. The big difference is in this one it's blue and it's dark tones, and in mine it's just basically a white background. So it's kind of lazy, but the skin is basically it is what it is. And I figured out the big thing to really make it work, because if you actually look at we'll go ahead and do this, and we'll pick the right one. There we go. We'll do a side by side. So I do need to flip this, but I forget how to flip it. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing on both sides, so it's not like it really matters. Other than that's a bare bulb versus a covered bulb, but it's the same idea. So what we can do is, first of all, I need to white balance it. So I think this node is just a white balance node. Yeah, it is. I'm looking here. So I white balanced it, which took off a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just hide this. So I went from that to that. That's a pretty decent white balance, and I can explain that because when it comes to this kind of stuff, I care less about what the background looks like, because this background is not actually white. It's sort of like a aged, I would say like closer to bleached muslin, so like a brownish, like a whitish brown. But if you look at the skin tones, yeah, they're right on the line. So good. Yeah, I could have even gone more aggressive and probably white balanced off the back wall, but I decided that was not worth it. Let's go back to this. There we go. And so the second thing I did was, because now that we have the skin tones sort of where they need to be, crazy enough, in this particular thing. So I've noticed that in all of the stuff that's, let me jump to one. In all the shots that are actually like traditional shots with different composition, not just these sort of like split tone or two-tone shots that only have two colors in them. This one being blue and brown, or blue and orange. Again, this one being sort of teal and orange. But the ones that have sort of like the whole scope, the skin tones are normal. If you look on the skin tone line, Jenna Ortega's skin tones, bam, right on the line. Girl whose name I don't know, skin tones, bam, a little bit pushing red magenta, because again, she's sort of living in the pink world, and they needed to differentiate it from yellow. So her shirt is a little bit more yellow, and her face is a little bit more pink, and her hair is a little bit more yellow. That's how you get a little bit of contrast inside of basically similar colors, because again, yellow and red are close to each other. But Jenna Ortega's skin tones are right on the money, and that's basically because it's giving the appearance of these lights lighting their face. I think that's what they're trying to sell. Obviously, that's not how it was done, but that's what they're trying to sell. It's a beautiful shot, and so for that reason, yeah, we're good. And so if I want to if I want to match it to Jenna Ortega's image, I darkened the background to sort of sell it a little bit more. We can flip this, I think. Actually, you know, we'll do this. Let's do an up-down wipe. So yeah, obviously it's not as dark as theirs, and I can prove that by the waveform, but you know, it's basically, I could even probably go more orange on my face. My skin tone looks a lot more like that girl than Jenna Ortega's, but to be fair, I'm a white blonde guy and she's a white blonde girl, so it kind of tracks. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, if I really wanted to, I could really work on the background, make the background darker the way it is in that other one, but more or less the skin tones are right. The teal on my shirt is it close enough to sort of the teal in the room? I could go bluer, I bet, but more or less I'd say I'm done. So no big deal. So let's see. So that's where we started with. That's where we ended up. Not a huge jump, but as far as what it looks like compared to our sample, I'd say it's reasonably close. I don't hate it. You know, it's different. Obviously, again, so much of this show is the production design, and it's incredible. There are certain Netflix shows especially that, what's the one with the two kids and the baby, and they go on adventures, and it's got the voice of Kronk in it. That the production design in that one too is absolutely incredible. But Tim Burton, the production design and the visual storytelling in Tim Burton stuff is just, it's so incredible. Moving on, so we got this one. Let me just see what I did because I want to hint. Okay, so this one is an outdoor. I believe I'm emulating this. So again, looking at this looks early morning, and she runs into Uncle Fester, who their skin tone is pretty incredible because it's just crazy. We'll bust out this again and put this over here. Yeah, so Uncle Fester, his skin tone is skewing super blue, but obviously very low saturation. That's why it's close to the middle. But ignoring the sort of shaved head, if you get sort of the mouth parts, you do end up in sort of small saturation skin tone world. Jenna Ortega's character, very same thing. Again, on the darker side of her face, it's a little more bluer because they're getting blue sunlight from back here. So the shadow is more skin tone, and the blue side, or the side we're seeing is more skin tone. The bright side, the sunlit side, is more blue because it's a blue sun thing. But if you look, it looks like she's in monochrome, but if you actually zoom in, especially her shirt, it's not white, it's blue. It's very blue. If you look over here, her shirt has quite a bit of blue saturation. Her white shirt does. The black part of her shirt has very little saturation because it's black, but yeah, so, and what did I do? Well, first of all, I need to pull it back up. It's a completely different shot. I will, you know, call a spade a spade. It's a different situation because it's, you know, this is supposed to be looking at a window, so it's supposed to be blue sunlight, but these are two different things. That's true. There we go. But in theory, this is approximately the same light as theirs. The difference is they definitely have something warmer touching them, and so I could have been a blue light on the wall and then something warm up here. I didn't even do that. It's a very small adjustment. I just went a little bit more blue. We can look at this. We'll do that. Okay. Do a side by side. We'll zoom out. We'll close that because there's always too many windows when you're on a square screen. That's why widescreen is so nice. So again, I have more Uncle Fester complexion than I do Jenna Ortega. It's neither here nor there. I can flip this if we really want to, since it is supposed to be Wednesday Addams. Yeah, let's look at it. So skin tones, if you're looking at the skin tones, you know, very low saturation. Once again, this pink shirt is super distracting. I almost just keyed out the pink shirt because it does look like crap, but it is what it is. So ignore this big, obnoxious, obviously pink shirt that's super saturated, but the skin tone themselves, pretty low, a little bit pushing towards magenta. Hers, again, pretty even lower, but also I'd say pushing towards red a little bit. But I basically just dropped the saturation down, and that was pretty much it. I think I dropped the saturation, I dropped the temperature. So the temperature is down like a small amount, and the saturation went down. And the way I did saturation was actually in the hue versus sat. So if you look at this, ironically, there's nothing really green in the sample image. If you look, you think there is because foliage is supposed to be green. So there's a little bit of green, but it's mostly yellow. So we have some sort of white blue, we have a little bit of yellow, we have a tiny bit of green, and then we have a little bit of sort of red yellow. Whereas I basically said no green because we don't need it, and then I pushed the teal, I pushed the blue, and then I brought down the skin tones. So this is the skin tone. So I just here's where it was, and here's where I took it. So it's very subtle. But if you look at the graph over here, it's doing a lot on the graph. Yeah, so that's it. Basically, I just dropped the skin tones a slight amount. What I really did was I was trying to line up the two overlays, and so if you drop the saturation down, you see that, yeah, like it's just straight up more saturated, but it's not significantly more saturated because if you move the offset around, which is just move it around, the graphs, other than the giant pink spur, are basically the same. They're, I basically use the temperature to slide it from left to right. So if you take away 120, it goes up, and so 120 takes it back down a little bit. And but other than that, it's basically, I didn't have to do much because the standard profile of my camera is more or less the color world they're working in already. As far as saturation, as far as exposure, I just needed to change the blue value a little bit, and that was it. Again, not very aggressive. Other shows are much more aggressive about it, and most shows will really push the skin tones. Whereas, especially for the Adams kids and parents, they sort of just leave them where they are and let them absorb sort of the ambient light around them a little bit, which is really interesting. Let me go to my last one. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is I thought it was going to be this really aggressive, put a lot of elbow grease into it. And the answer is no. And a lot of that is just, again, the art design is absolutely its own thing, and it's fantastic. This, I feel like, is more conventional than anything else. But that is a very teal window. Let's see what I did with this one. Yeah, okay, so this one is supposed to be the 1-to-1. So this one was supposed to be a good approximation of this, using inherently bad footage, and so that's, yeah, it is what it is. It's not great. I think in a situation, especially if I fix that wall, I could sell this as a reaction shot to that, but it's not perfect. This one, however, I think actually pretty reasonable. And I want to talk about why. The skin tones, again, nothing changes. The skin tones are the skin tones, and so if you look, we'll do a qualifier. My skin tones on that are, again, just a little bit red, a little bit magenta. We'll go back to that image, okay? We'll flip it again. Yeah, so if we look at the skin tones, my skin tones are pushing a little red, a little yellow. Jenna Ortega's are pushing even more yellow, but it really depends on where you look. But even the saturation might be actually up a little bit more, so I might actually have to go up on the saturation a little bit. Interesting. What did I even change on this? Just the hue, right? Yeah, I just changed hue, so I could probably stand to. Well, actually, that's where the saturation is. That's interesting. Okay, so I could, well, you know what we'll do? We'll just do a hue versus sat, and we'll grab the skin, and we'll just push it up. How about that? Because we know it has to go up a little bit, and it needs to go a little to the left. So we'll do a hue versus hue just to really hammer it home. Need to go about there. Oh, I don't even like that, actually. What is that? You know what, we'll just cheat. We'll just do a little bit of orange correction. We're in the weeds now. So we don't do it all on one node. All right, we'll fix the saturation because that was obviously not the solution. What is going on here? Something's getting pushed. Let me just go back to what I had. Is this hue versus hue? Okay, so the hue versus hue is fine. It's going to be the hue versus sat. We're going to just get rid of that. If I'm eyeballing it, I think the skin tones just need to be a little bit warmer, so we'll just go up and left just a tad. Maybe up and middle. Not quite as up and left as I thought. Maybe that. Can we audition these and see how they look? I don't hate it. I think it could go further even. I think we could maybe push the color boost, which is a version of sat. Maybe something like that. I buy it, you know, ignoring the fact that I don't have a blue window behind me. I think we're there. And that's what it is. You know, sometimes less is more, and that's really the ongoing lesson that I'm constantly being reminded of is most of the time, especially if it's shot competently and or extremely well, less is more, and the less you want to mess with it, you just want to tease out little details. So it looks like they probably moved some colors around to really grab the pink and the yellow going on, because they're basically picking, especially in these scenes that are really high color value or high color, they're picking like 3 or 4 solid colors. I wouldn't say primary colors because, you know, these are the primaries, but they're picking specific colors and they're making sure either on set and possibly in post that everything sort of slots into primary colors. Whereas mine, there's gradients. There's sort of a yellow to blue gradient going on across the wall right here. They don't have any of that. The colors are basically solid. And that's an exposure thing, but it's also going to be done in post. I'm sure I could drop on like a effect that could color stabilizer. It's probably gonna, we'll see what it does. I don't know if it's gonna do anything. Yeah, just grab the whole area and see if it'll color stabilize. I'm not even sure if it's gonna do anything. Yeah, I don't know. My balance. For one thing, I've never really succeeded in using this. Anyway, my point is the Tim Burton stuff. It's awesome. It's super good. Yeah, you know, beautiful show. I need to actually sit down and watch the last 2 episodes because I'm not completely done with the show yet. But the production design of this show, the way it's colored, the way it's done, with the exception of, you know, certain skin tone moments where I feel like how they're doing the skin tone stuff sometimes doesn't work perfectly. Again, talking about the graveyard stuff, every so often it just seems like it's falling off. It looks fine here, but there's certain moments where like the corners of their mouths are kind of weird. But this is, you know, it's not a normal example of how you use color in film. But it's decidedly Tim Burton, and it's awesome. You know, this is one of those examples where, because things are actually exposed, they're not using low exposure as the only thing. And so the things that you need to see, the faces, the outline of the face by vignetting her, or by whatever it's calling her with a light behind her, you see what you need to see. You're not, if you're on your phone on the subway, you're not going to see the pinstripes on her dad's shirt, but you're seeing what you need to see. You're seeing the eyes. You're seeing the catchlights in the eyes. Absolutely beautiful. It's super cool. Yeah, even again, she's supposed to be in shadow, and we're getting that sort of optical illusion by having something bright right next to her face. So she's actually pretty decently exposed. She's almost 50% exposed, but the thing next to her goes up to almost 100. It looks like it's hitting the wall here, which might just be how YouTube saw it. But yeah, you're getting this optical illusion of her being darker by being next to a bright thing. All these little tricks, they're super good. The fact that she doesn't look completely inappropriate in the fact that she usually has pale skin, but in this scene it would make sense for her to have actually like saturated sort of orange, yellow, brown skin. Awesome. Yeah, I'm all about it. And just the fact that Tim Burton is all about color contrast, black, blue, bright red, yellow markers, a little bit of green on the ground. Like that's absolutely the guy needs to be teaching in film school this kind of stuff if he doesn't already. I feel like he's so much a recluse that he doesn't, but he's one of the greats. So anyway, that's what it was. This was all over the place, but yeah, like, subscribe, whatever, color grading. I'll see you next time.